nothing more satisfying than the sound of horses having breakfast. And these guys, they only get alfalfa, speedy beet and their herbs. They don't get any hard feed as such. Lots of fibre. And they get free access to hay. We'll do everything a little bit differently with our horses. Everything's done on a mutual basis. So, in other words, everyone has to be willing participants. There's no force involved. And this goes way back to my previous horse, Trelawney, who taught me so much about partnerships and cooperation rather than force, which is what a lot of people in the horse world still think is the only way you can work with these animals. But the fact of the matter is, these guys weigh over a ton. You can't force them to do anything. And Trelawney, not quite as big as these guys, I don't think, but he weighed over a ton as well. And if he didn't want to do something, there was no way on hell's earth that you were going to get anything done. You know, it all had to be partnership, working cooperatively together. That was the only way to do it. Back here is a piglet. And he eats his food very quickly. And when he's eaten his food, he likes to go and steal Sonny's. So I have to watch Sonny, because look how much Sonny's got left. They have exactly the same amount. Jack's eaten his already. So at this stage, I have to stand guard so that Jack doesn't steal Sonny's breakfast. And Sonny, he's so kind, he just gives it to him. It's not ideal, is it, bud? Is it, bud? You shouldn't be giving your breakfast away. No, you really shouldn't. So Jack knows I'm here, and what he's doing is he's like, I'm just going to nibble the spillages I've made, and then when your back's turned, I'm just going to wander over and take his as well. Because I know Jack too well. See, when Jack was weaned, far too young, he was put in a herd of colts, and he probably had to fight for his food. Whereas I don't think that was the case for Sonny. So, hello, you. So I get the sideways look. It's like, yeah, Mum, I know I'm not going to get away with it today. But you just go back to the watering and I'll just turn around and I'll steal Sonny's food. Here he comes, look. I think Sonny's just about finished now. Oh, look the bowl, bud. Hello. You alright? You done? Yeah, there's haylage. I'm going to go and put the hay out. Good boy. They're such big boys. Such big boys, and they haven't finished growing yet. But Jack's so much chunkier than Sonny. Here's the thing, when these guys arrived at 8 months old, Sonny was really sick. He arrived very poorly. He arrived with quite a large injury to his poll going down from the top of his ears down his neck. I don't know what happened. They made some lame excuse. And then he just got really sick. And so I called a vet out to have a look. And they didn't know what was wrong, but what they did do was they picked up one of his front feet, his black leg, black foot, and dragged him round the barn and then pulled his tail, and it totally traumatised him. Sonny is very, very sensitive, aren't you, buddy? Very sensitive chap. He picks up on human emotion. Very sensitive boy. And so that trauma that vet caused has had a long-lasting impact on him, picking up his feet, for us to be able to look after his feet and to trim him. Now, when he was still a foal, we used to be able to get away with it a bit because he likes sleeping. He loves sleeping, and he always sleeps lying down, and he snores a lot. So I used to, and my trimmer, foot trimmer, used to do his feet whilst he was sleeping. But he cottoned on to that and didn't like it very much. And it's fair, you know, who wants to be disturbed whilst they're sleeping? But like I say, it's really important to keep on top of the hoof health. So I had to look at alternatives, and I really didn't want to go down the route of sedating him to do his feet, or building a crush to do his feet. Those just all seemed so horrendously awful that would just traumatise him all the more. And then you've got a horse that you can't trust and he doesn't trust you. I started working really, really slowly with him, picking one foot up, then the other, and he was very resistant. But he would do it to a point, but not long enough for me to be able to trim his feet. So I started looking around on the internet for alternatives, ways to engage with him, to help him trust me to do what I had to do. But it had to be, he had to trust me. That was the bottom line of it. Jack, absolutely no problem at all. He got it, and he learnt very quickly to pick his feet up, and no problem at all. The trimmer, I've got a fantastic trimmer, Clive. He's amazing. He comes out and does Jack's feet, and he was very patient as well. Understands, they're young horses, they need to learn how to do it, and he understands my approach to horses, which is very much, this has got to be a shared mutual experience. It's got to be a partnership. You can't do it any other way with these animals. They're too big, and why would you? But Sonny was a bit more problematic, but I had to persevere. So I started looking on the internet, and I found something called the trust technique, which introduces mindfulness as a way of engaging with them. And it's all about reducing your own emotions and your own thoughts, which is not an easy thing for somebody who is autistic and probably ADHD, when my brain doesn't stop thinking at all. So if somebody said, learn how to meditate, imagine looking at a candle, I can't do that. I just can't. But the trust technique, the approach is different. What the trust technique does is it gets you to focus on your senses. So your sight, your sound, your touch. And so by doing that, by listening to the meeting, by feeling the wind on my face, by focusing on a spot on the ground, I was able to bring my own emotions and my own energies down and he started engaging with me, and he started letting me trim his feet. It would be one a day, one at a time, and we would be doing it constantly. It was no 6-week rotation or anything. It was a little often, and that's how we did it. But then last year I injured my shoulder lumping bales and logs around, and I couldn't do it. So Clive tried doing him, but Clive, he's a great foot trimmer, but he's quite high energy, and whilst it works for Jack, it was absolute no-go with Sonny. But Clive had an apprentice called Charlotte who was just coming towards the end of her apprenticeship, and so was able to, and so she was setting up on her own basically. So I asked her to come out, and she is very calm, very quiet, and instantly there was that engagement between them. And so for the last 10 months she has been doing his feet every 3 weeks. So we do fronts 1 week and then backs the next time round. And fair enough, he goes through quite a lot of treats because he does find it stressful. He does. But he is free to walk away. It's all done, I say at liberty, but I say that with reservation because liberty means different things in the horse world. He is free to make the choice to walk away if he wants to, but he doesn't. He chooses to stay, and he chooses to let Charlotte trim his feet as long as I feed him lots of biscuits, which is fine. It's fine. He's a big animal, and I would rather that than any other way, because at least we are all of us working mutually. And the wonderful thing is, he was trimmed last Wednesday, his back's this time round, and for the first time she brought her foot stand and he put his feet straight on the stand, and she was able to rasp his feet without any problems at all. It was incredible. He didn't care. You know, he was really relaxed about it. Something I want to just mention about, I keep going on about a foot trimmer. These guys are barefoot. They always will be barefoot, and they will always be bitless as well. Now, Trelawney, my Shire that I had before, until he passed away in 2022 after a short illness, he was 18. I'd had him since he was a year old. It was a massive loss. We were great friends. He was also bitless and barefoot for his whole life, and we did loads of things. I rode him. He did logging, he did chain harrowing, he was a therapy horse, which was what he enjoyed the most. He loved people, absolutely loved people, and he worked with veterans and children and people with mental health problems. He's been on telly. You can see him in a video with Ben Fogle. I'll drop a link in the comments below, so you can look at that video if you want. But he was an amazing horse, absolutely amazing horse, and he went way before his time, and he was going to be the teacher for these two guys, but these guys arrived at the in December of 2020, and he passed on in 2022, so we didn't get a chance for him to teach them about all the stuff that he'd learnt, and it's a real shame. But anyway, barefoot and bitless his whole life, and people used to say I was mad. I mean, back then it was unusual, and people used to criticise me and, you know, berate me and tell me I'm mad and stuff, and I probably was, and I probably am, and I don't care. But that was the way it was, and I mean, it's much more accepted now, being barefoot and bitless, these horses, but it's still not the norm, and it should be. You know, these guys do not need shoes on their feet. I will show you. I'll show you what I mean. But seriously, when you've got Hoof that hard, good boy. Why would you put a shoe on it? Going back to the Barefoot thing and the Bitless thing, but the Barefoot thing, Trelawney embarked on a 3-day challenge. It was a kind of a fundraising challenge for our Courses for Forces project back in 2015, where Trelawney, 3 pack ponies that came with Pack Pony Sam, and our own Dartmoor hill pony Pippin, we did a 56-kilometre trek across Dartmoor. It was called the Butterden to Butterden Challenge. It was from our woods to Butterden Hill at Ivy Bridge. And probably 18k of that was on roads. Now, Pack Pony Sam had reservations about Trelawney being able to do it. He didn't think that he would, given his size and the size of his feet, he would be able to manage with the narrow animal tracks on Dartmoor. But do you know what? He loved every minute of it. He was the lead horse, and he was the only horse at the end of it. He wasn't footsore. He'd have done it all again if he'd had the food. And ironically, it was the one and only time he got onto the trailer to go home with no arguments whatsoever, because there was a bucket of food inside. It was a great, great experience for all of us, for Trelawney, for Wolf, for me, and for everyone who took part. And Trelawney proved Sam completely wrong. Trelawney just loved it. He loved it so much. He just, yeah, he was made for that kind of thing.